transfer portal is continuing to turn. Derek Harmon, Michigan State defensive lineman. Gosh, getting me choked up thinking about it. Michigan State defensive lineman Derek Harmon has 5 schools that seem to be the leaders in the clubhouse for him. This is per Pete Nakos and per Steve Wiltfong, who are crushing all the portal coverage for us here at On 3. The schools are as follows: Oregon, Ohio State, USC, Colorado. That 5th school, where he just came from, Michigan State. Now, Derek Harmon, it's worth noting, during the winter window, jumped in the portal and then went back to Michigan State. So we could see the old okie doke twice from him, jumping in the portal during the winter, coming back to Michigan State, jumping in the portal post-spring, coming back to Michigan State. That could happen. Colorado and USC have already gotten visits this spring. He had a visit to Miami that he eventually canceled. Oregon and Ohio State are interesting because those are 2 schools that he talks to during that winter window, and he hasn't taken visits there during the spring window that we're aware of, unless there was some secret visits going on. For Ohio State, the obvious is you got Larry Johnson coaching the defensive line. That is always going to be attractive to recruits at the high school level or at the portal level. Doesn't matter. Dude can coach some ball, and if you want to be a defensive lineman in the NFL, he's got a pretty strong track record of getting that done for you. I think he's more of a missing piece for Oregon and Ohio State. I think for USC and Colorado, he's kind of that tone setter like we talked about yesterday on this show. If he goes back to Michigan State, that would be wild. That would be wild, and I would have no idea what to make of that. But apparently that is in play for Derek Harmon, one of the most sought-after players in the transfer portal. Now, speaking of sought-after players in the transfer portal, D'Angelo Pons is an All-American freshman player, a true freshman All-American player, rather, from James Madison, who's a corner, 5'9", 162 pounds, what they got him listed at. He is hearing from anybody and everybody for his services. Schools like Auburn, Miami, USC, Tennessee, and a myriad of other schools. I'm not so sure. I don't like him more at the nickelback spot. I haven't really watched any of his film, but given that size, I'm not sure I wouldn't like him more on a slot receiver or maybe add him into the box and go and make some plays on the perimeter. We'll see what ends up happening with him there where he plays, but D'Angelo Pons will have his options, so we'll see what happens there. Penny Boone, after we got off the air yesterday, committed to UCF. Now, Penny Boone transferred from Toledo to Louisville during that winter window, and then went to Louisville, did spring practice, back in the portal. He's headed to UCF. The old double transfer from Penny Boone. I love him and KJ Jefferson in the same backfield together. That is first team all downhill, and Gus Malzahn's offense, they're going to run for a lot of yards. That's going to be fun to watch. UCF making their presence felt in the portal at this point in time. Michigan linebacker Jeremiah Beasley has committed to Missouri. Now, Michigan was the school of choice for him out of high school in the 2024 class, did spring football, and then commits to Missouri. So 6'2", 235 pounds, has all 4 years of eligibility. He was a, again, 4-star player in the class of 2024. All 4 years remaining. He's able to transfer to an SEC school post-spring and not have to sit out at all because he's not transferring from an SEC school. If Jeremiah Beasley was at Georgia and then transferred to Missouri, he'd have to sit out a year. But because it's from Michigan to an SEC school, he can get that done. Big Ten to SEC, no blockage there. He's good to go, and a big pickup for Missouri. This was one that I think maybe made a little bit of noise on the timeline. Remember Jeff Sims? He was at Georgia Tech, and then he was at Nebraska, and he's got a lot of tools. Like, he's a really talented football player who hasn't really been able to put it together consistently just yet. He is now headed to Arizona State. Andy Staples, one, does a great show on this very platform, so another reason to be subscribed, but also put out a great article kind of chronicling Jeff Sims's career and his time from Nebraska and all the way to now committing to Arizona State. Jeff Sims obviously was a starter last year for Nebraska. Didn't work out how I think everybody, including Jeff Sims, wanted it to. He ends up hitting the portal. And then he actually went back to Georgia Tech to get another degree, finish some credits, go work out with his old quarterback coach in Atlanta, and he's now headed to Arizona State to play for Kenny Dillingham. I say this a lot on this show. We are not journalists. I do not have a broadcasting degree, so we don't have like journalism or journalistic integrity that we have to abide by. We can have favorites. Jeff Sims, I openly root for. He's got a ton of ability. He's got a ton of tools, 6'4", 220 pounds. There are stories in Andy Staples' article about him and Carson Beck and Anthony Richardson all working out with the same quarterback coach and going throw for throw at different sessions. Like, he's got a lot of ability, just hasn't put it together just yet. I hope Arizona State is the place for him to do that. This is a great example of a quarterback watching the dominoes fall, kind of letting the dust settle a little bit on the portal, and then eventually, when Jaden Rashada jumps in the portal from Arizona State, a spot opens up. He becomes in more of a high-demand player. Let's call a spade, and now he has a chance to go compete for a starting job. So we wish the best for Jeff Sims. Again, we have favorites. Jeff Sims is one of them. TCU defensive lineman Dominic Williams is one of the top players in the transfer portal, very highly sought after. 6'2", 320 pounds. He will have 2 years of eligibility if he wants it. Coming off a visit to LSU, there's a lot of really good intel over there at the Bengal Tiger, our LSU on 3 site, so go check that out. The reports out of that visit are it was amazing. Okay, it was amazing. That is his words. He thought it was phenomenal. And I talk about LSU and what they want to be in 2024. Defensively for LSU, change starts in the heart, right? Starts in the heart from a mentality standpoint, but it also starts in the heart of your defense. And the nose tackle position, the defensive tackle position, is the heart of your defense. LSU loses Mason Smith. They lose Mekhi Wingo. They allowed 4.5 yards a carry last year. I think LSU fans threw up in their mouth a little bit just even hearing me say that. He's a proven commodity, had 60 tackles, 9.5 tackles for a loss, 4.5 sacks from his 2 seasons at TCU. This would be a massive get if LSU is to land Dominic Williams from TCU. Rutgers quarterback from Owensboro, Kentucky, from Nick Brake's neck of the woods, Gavin Wimsatt has entered the transfer portal. Now, Gavin Wimsatt's an interesting case because he was the highest-rated recruit to end up at Rutgers playing quarterback. So let me rephrase that. He was the highest-rated quarterback to end up at Rutgers from the class of 2021. Was a 4-star player. He started all of Rutgers' games last year. Counted for 20 touchdowns. Threw for over 1,700 yards. Ran for almost 500 yards. He did not win the job in the spring. Sees the writing on the wall. I want to go play somewhere. Hits the portal. So this is one of those things where it's hard to blame Gavin Wimsatt. He lost his job. He wants to play somewhere. He doesn't want to sit the bench. Good for Gavin Wimsatt. We wish him the best. So the portal, even though the window's closed, there's still a lot of activity in there. Would encourage you to be dialed in here. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.